Hello.
Hi guys.
How's it going?
Here we are.
Happy New Year.
Almost.
Almost a couple of days away. We are jet lagged and tired. Just got back from our trip
Yes.
and excited to share that with you, but that's not what we're going to talk about today.
Check that out on Instagram.
Yep, we'll share like a little reel because
or Facebook.
Yeah, or on whatever, but it'll be a shorter. It's not a full episode,
Yeah.
so
just the highlights.
Just the highlights, because that's nobody wants to sit through 20 minutes of our vacation, but maybe some of you do. I shouldn't speak for everybody, but no, we figured, you know, one of the things that we haven't talked a whole lot about yet, on this podcast, because I mean, the whole idea of this is like sharing marriage and family and, what's made us work. And one of the things that comes between a lot of people, whether they planned them or not, is children.
Yeah.
And
parenting
specifically like parenting style, like how you handle different things when it comes to your kids.
And just past.
Mm-hmm.
How you were raised.
Yeah. Like all of these things play an important role in like what kind of parent you decide you're going to be. And so we've shared like a little bit about
setting traditions.
Yeah, like we
last time.
We talked about traditions, but we've also talked a little bit about like how we came to our parenting style, but we haven't really talked about the style itself. So like we talked about, when I was in counseling early on when Dylan was a baby, we shared that. So I was in therapy because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to be a mom that hurts her kids. I wanted, like I'd always heard that if you grow up in certain situations, then you're destined to repeat your parents' mistakes, essentially. Like, and so I was like, nope, I don't want to do that. Ended up in counseling and kind of worked out what kind of parent I wanted to be. And in that, it's like you're part of that conversation too, because you're obviously parenting with me. And so we kind of sat down and we were like, kind of this framework that we shared before, which if you haven't done before, like thinking through like things like how do you want your kids to feel when they're around you every day? How do you want them to feel when they're being disciplined? How do you want them to, like what kind of parent do you want to be when the really hard stuff happens? And then outlining that. So what does that look like? And so for us, we decided, as parents, one of the big things was we want our kids to always feel comfortable around us, like to feel comfortable telling us even the hard things.
Yeah.
And having those hard conversations. What else?
Yeah, I want them to be able to come to us for the big and the small, like the open communication.
Mm-hmm.
And really like be able to like for them to be given information, advice, and for it to really like them to listen to it and not just be like,
oh, parents, yeah,
my parents are just squawking at me, or
we don't want to just be
that
like
sense of judgment where they're just like
noise.
They're judging and they're not actually listening. I think,
and like safety, like physical safety, emotional safety, like knowing that we're safe people.
Yeah.
To be around.
Yeah, and that, I basically want the kids to know that all of that, but also like we're there to be supportive, but we're also like rooting for them, like to set them up to be better parents than we were, to be better people, to like so they
be successful.
They can have a successful, healthy adulthood.
Yeah, well, and on that, like preparing them for the world.
Yeah, like not sugarcoating it or plowing all the obstacles out of the way. That
like there's like the sheltering and they're taken to extremes is like, oh, you're not ready for the world, and then there's like the opposite where kids get like whatever they want whenever they want and aren't sheltered almost enough from things early on, and so like both of those things have consequences. But then there's also like as teachers, we have that perspective too.
I've seen both. Yeah,
Seen both ends of the spectrum of like really like the kids that get away with everything, and like parents never, like you see that play out where like you call a parent and they're like, nope. Like,
there's an excuse, or the parent, they call it snowplow parent, where the parents just basically plow.
They just blame everybody else for their kids' behavior.
And they plow all the obstacles out of the way, or the parents take over, and so the kid never really learns or struggles.
Like, there's even at the secondary level, you'd be surprised how many parents do their kids' homework for them. And fully admit to doing it.
And there's the opposite, where there's like the absent parent, or the parent that's like,
there's
you
like
don't want to call home because you feel like
you'd feel bad.
You'd feel bad that the child would be
put in a situation that's not
uncomfortable or not
good.
necessarily safe.
Yeah. So there's definitely those extremes, and neither of them are helping your kid for the world. Like if your kid has never had consequences at home, real ones, or never has to face their, what's the word I'm looking for? Like they've never had to like face what they've done in public, or like they've never had to like,
they have to go head to head with the conflict.
Because the thing is that we live in a world with conflict.
Yeah.
In a world where they're going to have confrontation
and opposing opinions, and they need to be elastic and have that flexibility,
the growth
and
mindset
thought.
And grit, but also like empathy and knowing that other people are from different walks of life and that they are also valid.
Yeah.
And it's not just their way or the highway, Yeah. But also like then you don't want to raise them to be afraid of the world because they've had such extreme consequences that then conflict shuts them down.
Yeah.
We have seen, unfortunately, we see that both sides all the time. Which then is like parents, it's like, okay, how do we
balance that?
How do we balance to create a medium, like a middle ground where there are consequences that still exist, but also like not so hard that the kids shut down. And understanding the psychology behind it helps too. So, because that's the other part, is it like something that you've kind of highlighted before in talking like about our kids, is this idea of coaching. Like there's still consequences, but then you've talked a lot about like it's important to like talk about why.
Yeah, because like they don't, like you have said that like sometimes they can't process as a child or even a teenager. They don't process the big picture, and
they can't help it.
They can't help it. They can't do it. And
they're not wired that way yet.
But when they do, and then there's that sense of like remorse, and then you can tell that they've learned something.
Yeah.
Which is what you want. That you want your kids to learn from their mistakes.
Yeah.
And learn about the world in a healthy way. It's
sitting down with them. It's not just issuing a consequence, but like explaining.
Yeah.
Like, here's who that hurt, or let's think this through.
Yeah. And I think as a parent, sometimes like that's what I always want, is like, oh, you messed up, or here's the mistake you made. I want them to be like the little cartoon light bulb, but like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, but I think as a parent, a lot of the times you will give a consequence to a kid, and they're learning, and they're learning from their mistake, but there isn't that like that. They don't get that remorse, or they don't get that like cartoon light bulb. Oh, like right away. That a lot of times it even for me, like sometimes I'll have to like step away and process it, and then be like, okay, this is what they were talking about. Because sometimes in the moment you're just in that fight or flight, and so you're listening, but you're also
preparing to defend.
Yeah. And so for me as a parent, I always hope to see that like, oh, they get it. Even as a teacher, like, oh, they get it. I can move on, instead of just like doubling down on like, do you understand? And they're like deer in headlights, and so you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm like, let me say it again and again and again in a different way, and then it becomes more like a harping on them.
Yeah.
I know, like, that's what I usually sometimes go to, but I also know, like, as a person, you need your time to reflect sometimes. So it's not, you don't get the best.
Sometimes it is just like giving them a beat, like, hey, we're going to talk about this later.
Yeah. And here's some time for you to think about.
Like,
we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
Because either right now I don't have the energy
it's important
to get into it right now with you, or I need you to think about it because.
Well, it's not even just the energy. Sometimes you're so mad at what they did.
Yeah, you have to come to it.
I need to calm down before we can have this conversation. Yeah. Because I also don't want, like, I think that when people yell at you, you do tune them out. Like, I do anyway. Like, it's more natural to be like, whoa, okay. And it's easier to write somebody off when they're being, like, crazy acting, or not crazy, but just, like, super angry. Like, it's easier. So it's like, if we can, like, level-headed talk about it, it's going to be a little bit easier to, like, take them in. Because, like you said, then you're, like, open at least. You're not, like, trying to defend yourself. But I do think, as parents, that's been pretty pivotal, is, like, there's consequences. And for us, the consequences can look very different, but then they're always followed or partnered with a discussion. So it's like the discussion doesn't necessarily replace the consequence, right? So, like,
no, yeah, they're two different things.
Very different things. And so, like, sometimes consequences are like, well, I guess you're grounded. Like, especially as they get older, it's been like, well, I guess you're not doing anything this weekend.
Yeah.
You're going to be home, which is, I will say, sometimes I feel like it's not a consequence for some of our boys don't mind being at home. So, which is a good thing, sometimes, but it's also like, anyway, it is still a consequence. But that's basically all that's needed at this point, usually, is like a discussion and some kind of small kind of thing. When they were little, it might be, I'm going to take away a toy or a privilege, like video games.
Yeah.
We're often on the chopping block. We're going to have to just, like, not have video games for the day.
Yeah.
Things like that. Like, it doesn't have to be extreme to be effective, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And there's times we made them write letters.
They've had to write apology letters. Yeah. Those are some of my favorites.
Because we keep them.
I keep them and I read them. It's so cute. There was a night that, like, I had made a soup. It was chili or something. Like, it was soup. And the boys just sat and made fun of it and called it poop soup. And Tyler, you later on were like, hey, that was not okay, and you hurt Mom's feelings. And you had them write letters to me of apology. And those are, like, my favorite letters, where they're like, Dylan's especially, I think it was like, I'm really sorry that I made fun of your cooking. I shouldn't have called it poop soup, but I just really didn't like the way it tasted.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very honest. He's like, I just really didn't like it, but I shouldn't have called it that.
Yeah.
So, like, and then they get it. Like, they didn't, so that's all it took for them to, like, oh, when I make fun of something that somebody else has done,
worked hard on and planned.
Yeah. Like, then that's not cool. And they got it. And then,
Yeah. And you have to try new foods.
The next time it happened, it was salad. So, but it doesn't take extreme measures. Like, you can discipline your kids. Like, for those who are afraid of discipline, it doesn't have to be brutal, right?
It doesn't have to be physical.
It does not need to be physical. Like, for me, it was really important that it's not. That was part of, like, one of my non-negotiables, is to not be physically punitive. And so, finding those other opportunities to say, hey, there's still going to be a consequence, because that is still important. And kids need balance. Kids need consequences in their life. That is how they're going to learn to function. But there's also the thing that Tyler's really big on, which are natural consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of
like as a mama, sometimes I want to protect them from their natural consequences.
To a point, yeah.
To a
There's
point.
things like you shouldn't put metal in a socket and things
like
you're not gonna let.
You're gonna
I'm not
protect
gonna.
them from.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
protect them from. But there's also like I don't know, I can't think of a good
like
example.
You didn't do your homework, so you get the bad grade.
Yeah.
Or
yeah, you don't. Yeah, there's all kinds of things like you didn't put like you didn't check your tires for air. Now you're gonna be late to work. Like I don't have to tell you. Like
yeah.
I don't know, just little things. And they're all things that are life things. Like
yeah.
It snowballs into something bigger later if you don't take care of it now.
Mm-hmm. Whereas I'm more of a like, let's help them think it through right now sometimes. And then I get a little like, oh, because the natural consequences make me nervous sometimes. But yeah. So I think that there's that too. I do think it is important to like let them have their natural consequences as well. But like you made the choice.
Yeah. You're gonna walk that path. You gotta figure it out.
Yeah. So that's kind of when the extreme. And thankfully we haven't had a lot of extreme behavior that I can think of.
No, we've had our things where we have to figure out who's better at not giving consequences, but who's better at addressing the issue. Like when the kids were younger, like elementary school, you did better with homework. And as the kids got older to middle school, I was able to play a bigger part in their homework. And I think that's part of it just because our careers, like I work with little kids. So we're giving like, that's all day work coming home and also doing more of the same thing.
Same kind of work, yeah.
And when it flipped when they got older, because now I was at least looking at homework and things that were
not what you deal with all day.
All day. So those kind of things had changed. And there's like driving and things like that where the kids gravitated towards me.
That's not a behavior you're
not a behavior, but it's just things that we figured out as a parents that were better suited for our strengths.
Sure. And I mean, and clearly too, like we're raising two boys. And so there's going to be naturally conversations that are just going to be easier to have if you have a male figure in your life.
Yeah.
Because I can't relate to the boys' stuff, right?
No.
So,
Yeah.
There's those two. And like navigating relationships or navigating, boys stuff.
School or friends in a way. Yeah.
Well, and that's like even like with friends, like I feel like you have a better handle because again, like thinking about cultural roles of males, like you understand that way more than I do. Mm-hmm. And so there are
the things they find funny or entertaining.
Yeah, that I'm like, that's gross. Why would you why are we laughing at that? And you're laughing with them. And I'm like, the guys, no. And you're like, it's fine. Like you have to sometimes talk to me about it. And like, this is a normal boy thing to laugh at. And I'm like, this is disgusting. So.
Yeah.
Tyler helps navigate that with me because I just have a different mindset, like cultural norm mindset, I guess. So.
Yeah.
But I do think, how do you know, I guess, leaving with this, how do we know we're doing okay as parents? What would you say, like, what is a measure that you use to say, okay, like, what we're doing is effective?
Yeah, I guess step one, or like the first view as it when somebody else
know?
When somebody else compliments your kids, like whether it's a teacher or somebody at church or...
What kind of compliment? That's a good-looking kid.
No, like they're well-behaved or they're very kind or, they're well-behaved or they're respectful. They're respectful or, somebody who's not in the household says something.
Not biased, yeah.
Yeah, and then I think the bigger one would be is when I get to see, them be successful. Like I'm not pushing them one way or another, but then I get to witness them doing something great. Like... Mm-hmm. Contributing to church or helping somebody who's less fortunate or a story they share about, you know, something that happened at work or on their way to work or school, and you're like, oh, that's really kind, or that it just sheds light on how good of a person they are, which is what you want for your kids, to be good people.
For sure.
So I would say that would be like, for me, is when I get to witness it without me like probing into it. It's just something that you just naturally see, like a fly on the wall, and you see it actually happen is pretty good. And then other people talking about it, or saying something.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that those are, for me as well, like it's ultimately, you know, you think about it, you're raising kids, but you're not really raising kids, you're raising adults and raising humans to be in this world, right? Like, so are they leaving this place better than they found it? Which is usually like something I want for myself, but that's what I want for my kids too. You know, like, are you making this world better? Like, every choice you make is either like, you can feed into I'm making myself in the world better, or you can feed into I'm making myself in the world worse. And in the end of the day, we're going to make mistakes, but you hope that ultimately, like, the balance tips to better.
Yeah, they learn, they move forward, bettering themselves and the world around them.
Yeah. So that's a little bit more of that parenting in a nutshell, in 20 minutes, 22 minutes.
If you have questions,
yeah,
we'd love to hear it.
Shoot them our way. And we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye.